Hey, thank you for showing interest. What I'm going to do is take you through what I show my clients. So I'm Joe Drew. I'm the blue collar partner with regards to Greenlight. And so my business model revolves around a couple different things. I run a construction company, build and design. I run a roofing company. I run a solar company. And so inside of this construction model created what you're seeing. And so what I'm doing, and I just feel it's best just to show you how I bring this to my clients from in the commercial space. So my clients are business owners who own buildings. My clients are commercial roofers who have clients, and I'm showing them how to understand the advantage for the end client, which is the building owner. Okay, so I tackle this from a couple different ways, and you'll see kind of how all this comes together. So first and foremost, of just understanding if you own this building, or again, I go after what used to be my competition, and I do it through collaboration, simply through strategic partnership. So understand, you have somebody who needs a roof. They own that building right there. Money is always an issue, right? Because nobody wants to come out of pocket, whatever it is, $500,000 plus minus with regards to putting a commercial roof on. And so I start there and going, what I'm about to show you is three unique things. I'm going to show you how to take liabilities and turn them into an asset, which is the roof. Take variable monthly expense, which is your energy bill, right? Your electric bill that you get month after month, right? And fix that, and how to do this using state, federal, and utility money. And this is how this gets here. So simply that project, that's a live project. I'm going to round up. So that project is $1.4 million, half roofing, half solar. And simply by understanding how this all takes place, because of how the federal and the state and utility work together, this is what happens. So my year one incentives that go to that client is over $600,000. They have between 30 to 50% of the federal ITC credit. You have unique depreciation because this is now a renewable project. And so in year one, they're able to maximize a minimum of $600,000. The direct pays, these are actually the checks that are received. And so one is going to be a smart utility rebate of $116,000. That's from the utility company. And the other is going to be what used to be called, and they're still called carbon credits. You may know these as carbon credits. They're now identified as solar renewable energy certificates, SRECs. There's a reason why they changed the name from carbon credit to SRECs. But in essence, those are your carbon credits. That total is nearly $750,000. There's additional with regards to a tax incentive because the government, both federal and state, is incentivizing because they need the electrification to take place, and I'll get into that. There's another $167,000. So the system cost is basically equal to the incentive cost. And so the entire business model, what I do now, changed because of understanding this. And so that goes down to the next one. And I'm like, Mr. Client, it doesn't stop there, because now that solar system becomes the power plant. And yes, you're paying about $8 a month in power, which is about $108,000 a year, that you now become the power company. You're switching places with your utility. You're the provider, they're now the consumer. And that's that relationship. And so there's $108,000 plus. And so that adds up to an incredible amount as you get into this and recognizing how to take advantage of that. The next is we had to break that down and show them a year by year. Year one, your what we call that solar bank account, which starts at zero, becomes about $992,000. And that's through the energy savings, that's through the 30% of the federal tax credit, your state and federal depreciation, your smart utility rebate, and your carbon credits. So the carbon credits get paid. It's a cash flow that get paid over between a 5 to 7 year period. The larger the system, that will go a 7-year period. And that's additional $72,000 in revenue every year. And so that break even if that client had to come out of pocket to pay for it, which they don't, that break even is actually in year 2. And so it's like, okay, a little bit too good to be true. And I'll get into that. Next, this is the baseline of why this is taking place, because of your ESGs, the environmental, your environmental social governance, and these are the offsets that client now has because they're basically becoming green. And what I end up doing is then I take my client, I'm going to take you in this situation as well. All right, why is this happening? Right? Because a lot of times I'm getting feedback going, there's a catch, too good to be true. And so what I do is I start here. August 16, 2022 is day 1. Now, obviously, solar's been around for 50 years, but day 1 is really August 16, 2022, because Congress passed legislation. That legislation to you and I is actually called the Inflation Reduction Act. What this did, that nobody knows, is this bill funded the 2007 Energy Act. So 20 years ago, the bill was already created, just Congress never funded it. This bill funded it. It released the $500 billion into escrow for the electrification and rebuilding of the American grid. Now, two sides of this equation. One's the money and one's the mandate. So the money side, you're familiar with Freddie and Fannie, right? Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae. Those are government-backed agencies for home mortgages. What most don't understand is the third lender got created. That third lender is called PACE. It's an acronym again, stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. Within PACE, you now have the different federal lenders that distribute that $500 billion. Okay? On the flip side of this, in order to create a massive change, I would never participate in this, and most Americans won't. So what they did, the architects of this bill, is they created these mandates, not on you as the citizens of America, but on the energy sector. So for me, I'm in Exelon territory, Commonwealth Edison. There's, I think, 3 major NRG on the East Coast, forgot off the top of my head on the West Coast, and then the Midwest is Exelon. So here's what we need to understand. ComEd is now under 2 federal mandates. The first goes into effect January 1, or is in effect January 1, 2025, whereby they must be delivering 30% of their energy as green energy. I call it the green solar energy. Wind energy is still solar energy. That is the floor. So this 30% is a floor. Right now, as I'm recording it, we're at 12%. The big one is what happens in a decade from now, because it has to get, the mandate is from 30% to 70%. And that's the big catch, because understanding how that all works, there's massive changes that took place. For me here in ComEd, this happened this year alone. This is the bill that we've received, whether it's a business or a home, for 25 years. And all of a sudden, in April, May, June of this year, every business and every homeowner got a new bill. New logo, new look. Everybody got a brand new account number. And nobody knows why. Well, it took place on how that bill is broken down. There's supply, delivery, and fees. So any energy company, there's supply, delivery, and fees. These fees are what we now pay for. An environmental cost recovery adjustment fee, that's 1. A renewable portfolio standard fee, 2. A zero emission standard fee, 3. A carbon-free energy resource adjustment fee, that's 4. An energy efficiency programs fee. An energy transition assistance fee. And now you have the other state, municipal, and franchise fees on top of that. So this is what's taken place in order to get to that 70%. Building code across America is changing dramatically. As a builder, you have building code and now you have energy code. Energy code's been around for about a decade or more, and that is now changing. On the residential side, it's changing because every home is being built a little bit differently now. And on the commercial side, we in the Midwest, we just passed the 765 ILCS that says every commercial building permit issued 90 days after the effective date of April 1st shall require 100% of that parking EV capable and 5% of it EV ready. And this is where my mind kind of blew, because as a construction, the infrastructure that needs to go into that parking lot is significant. So what you and I see, whether you have an EV or not, those pedestals have all been done as the entrepreneur world. Well, that's all mandated now because these states are now going to create the infrastructure because of the August 16, 2022. Everything trickles down from that point. The micro macro. So the micro standpoint of solar is simply look at the top of Targets, look at the top of Walmart's, Home Depot's. You see the Chase Banks, they have it for ESG. This is going to be a lot of the neighborhoods, and this is what's going to end up happening because as we get further in the future, whether you like it or not, what the home consumes in energy, it must produce. That's going to happen. But just from a commercial standpoint, you have that roofing surface, and now it's providing simply a relief from the grid to Walmart. That's the small scale. The macro, City of Chicago can never go solar. And so the micro doesn't take the place of the macro, and the micro doesn't disconnect from the grid. It's actually all connected. It's all connected because whatever city can never go solar because it's too much of a vertical silo. The understanding of the macro really comes down to this, and this began in 2007, right, with the Energy Act. Between 2000 and 2020, our demand for energy globally increased over 90%. And so our infrastructure is like 150 years old, and it needs incredible upgrades with regards to it. This is the big one. And so, my office is by O'Hare Airport, so when you get on 294 and you're driving to O'Hare, you see these new buildings going up, these gigantic buildings. I tell people, take a look at it. There's no windows in these buildings. These buildings are server buildings. You'll see all the RTUs, which are the AC systems. You'll see it has a micro plant. Comet had to put a micro substation next to that building because of the amount of power. And so with the advent of AI, the advent of crypto, the advent of where we're moving from a technologically standpoint, from a military standpoint, our demand for energy is so great that we can't continue to do this in the old model. This right here, this page, is the whole crux. And so that $500 billion in what I showed you for a client needing a roof, that's a drop in the bucket versus recreating and paying a quadrillion dollars, I just made up a word, to redo the entire American grid. And so when you understand this from a macro standpoint, it actually makes incredible sense because they're incentivizing us as the public to do so. I had no idea that every satellite in outer space is already powered by solar. So the fact that you're seeing this is through solar technology. Anything you buy on Christmas from Amazon, anything you watch on Netflix, all this from the GPS is all through solar technology. Okay, so it's been around a while. Now, one of the last things I'm going to say on this one is history is repeating itself. This happened in 1956 and back then, Congress actually called the bill what it was, the Federal Highway Act. So before this, there was no highways. In order to get to California to Chicago, it was Route 66. Take you 16 days to do so. So what did they do? The same bill got created. The United States government funded the entire infrastructure, the jobs, the bridges, the asphalt, the concrete, and the gas stations that had to be installed and operated every 100 miles along the first superhighway, because without a gas station, it would have never worked. So very similar to what's happening with the EV, right? The future wouldn't work with regards to that. And so understanding these incentives, it hit me because I'm at the tail end, and I do remember the Beverly Hillbillies and Granny and Jed and Jethro, but the whole thing was what? Black Gold Texas tea. And that alone goes, oh my gosh, we are simply doing the same thing. When you refine a barrel of oil, you're simply taking crude oil on one side and making kerosene on the other side. That was 120 years ago with Rockefeller. Through the last 120 years, we now are refining nearly 100% of that barrel of oil from kerosene, gasoline, diesel fuel, jet fuel, petrol, feedstock. And so what's taking place right there, understand commercial rooftop solar is identical to that because I'm now refining capital. As you've seen, I'm reducing an energy bill. I'm now utilizing federal energy credits. I now get paid on solar renewable credits. I get utility credits. I get macros. I get accelerated depreciation. I get re-roof discounts. I get construction discounts. And so this has been going on And simply by understanding how these pieces come together, this is why we call this the electrified commercial real estate. And all it is we're taking, I'm going to use a quick example. You could take a 200 unit building. That 200 unit, for example, is going to have 750 toilets, and a lot of people are going to be using those on a daily basis. You're going to have 200 yearly leases with regards to that. So the risk is moderate, but the maintenance and the management is extremely high. When you take a single tenant, this is what we look for. What we're purchasing is commercial real estate, single tenant commercial, a business who simply doesn't need the building anymore, but needs the business. And so the real estate just turns into a sale leaseback. And so single tenant commercial building, tenant pays all the expenses. They were doing it before. It's a triple net lease, 7 to 10 year lease. Your risk management and maintenance is extremely low because of that. And all we're doing is electrifying that grid and taking advantage. The NOI and the ROI. So as an investor, you're always looking for return on investment, which is $1 in, I want 10 units out, 5 units out, 8 units out, 12 units out. The ROI is based 100% on the business, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Target, whether it's Tesla, whatever you're investing in, is based upon the NOI, the net operating income. And there's only two ways of doing it. You increase income and you lower expenses. And so understanding that simple thing, this is where refining capital simply by understanding how the commercial rooftop solar is working. I capitalize all these, and you as the investor maximize this. And that's exactly what just taken place. Last slide on the standard, you're taking money, you're investing it somewhere, you're getting a return. No big deal. Got it, right? We all do it. We're looking to increase the NOI. We have a rental income, right? And there's a couple ways of doing this. I can raise the rents to increase income. I can charge for laundry. I can charge for parking, vending, charge for storage. I could charge for EV chargers now, right? And so different stuff like that can be done. Because we're taking advantage on a completely different scale, this is why we call it refining capital. I still get the rental income, but I increase the NOI by doing nothing different. Nothing. So on a current offering, this is what's taking place. I'm reducing that energy bill, $78,000. That's $6,500 of income that now comes to us because of the acquisition of that building. So I just created out of nowhere $6,500 of additional revenue simply on that. I get the federal energy credits. That's nearly $500,000. We get the carbon credits. We get the utility credits. We get the cost segregation. We get accelerated depreciation. We get the re-roof discounts. This is what is the electrified real estate is all about. And so I wanted to take you on a quick journey just to see it from our position, specifically how this all began by simply serving my client who was a building owner, and then my second client going, oh man, I can go to my entire commercial roofing industry and actually turn them into strategic partners. That turned into my going to my partner, seeing this going, wait a minute, we can actually take sale leaseback commercial real estate and we can electrify this and create this opportunity, which is unheard of. So that is where it's at. I appreciate the opportunity to see this little slide here. You feel free to contact us for any specific questions. Thank you so much.